episode of Federico Talks Watches. Now, as you can see today, I'm joined by our lead watch buyer, Josh. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Fed? How are you?
I'm all right. I figured you'd be the perfect guest for today's topic of conversation.
Cool. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Well, you guys know it's a soft watch market, right? It's no secret whatsoever. I mean, last year was considered like the watch apocalypse.
Yeah, it was tough at a retail level for sure for a lot of brands.
And, we don't feel the same hurt in the pre-owned necessarily.
We move with the market, so if everything goes down, we pay less and sell them for less, and if it goes up, we pay more and sell them for more.
Exactly. But I was kind of wondering, since you've been buying watches, because I've been selling watches a while, but you've been buying watches a lot longer than I have, since I've actually never really bought watches.
Right.
In your experience, have you noticed any brands apart from the usual suspects like Patek and Rolex, or any other brands that are kind of starting to pick up in the pre-owned watch market?
Yeah, there definitely are a few brands who are starting to kind of solidify their position, and these things are always changing, of course. I'd say, and we've talked about it on the show before, Audemars Piguet.
Yeah.
Audemars Piguet has done a lot of things to increase their value on the secondary market. I think, and like we always talk about, in order to control the secondary market price, you have to control the retail level price, right? So distribution. So if watches are heavily discounted through boutiques, through authorized dealers, and sold backdoor to gray market, then that's going to affect the resale margin or resale market for the
trickles down, right?
Of course, exactly. So it's going to be direct correlation, right? The larger discount you can get at a retail level, the less the watch will sell for at pre-owned. That's established. Audemars Piguet has been doing a lot of things to scale back production, to limit distribution and control discounting. And in fact, 15400s, 41 millimeter Royal Oaks steels are selling at near retail, if not at retail.
Even the blue dials, particularly, right?
Blue dials, especially. Those are boutiques. So anything sold directly through the boutique usually is going to have a stronger market as long as it's relevant. AP has been doing a lot of things. They've been releasing a lot of very relevant models. So the 41 millimeter stainless steel chronos with the Panda dials, super relevant. And so their previous generation have solidified that we're paying more for those and selling those for more than we probably ever have, because you can't get them. They're tougher to get at a retail level. You can't just call and order them. They're allocating these watches throughout all their dealer network, and they're not discounting at the retail level at their boutiques. They have two company-owned boutiques, one in Bal Harbour, one in New York City, and you'd be very hard-pressed to get a discount there. And honestly, so long as nobody's discounting, then discount doesn't really matter, right?
It's true. It's an even playing field pretty much for the entire market.
Right.
So it sounds kind of like the Royal Oak is not quite there, but it's given the Nautilus a run for its money.
It's getting very close in regards. The Nautilus right now is going insane, right? Patek Nautilus is stainless steel are selling for well over retail pre-owned. It's completely insane. It just doesn't really make any sense, but.
And for you guys who wonder, someone actually asked me, Federico, I got an email from a friend of mine. It's like, Federico, you guys are selling a pre-owned Nautilus more than a new one.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And I said, sure, because you try and, walk into Wimpy Jewelers or Tourneau and say, do you have a 5711?
They'll laugh at you.
The first thing is they're going to laugh. The second thing is like, oh, wait, you're serious? Okay, come back in 2025.
Right.
When it's your turn on the list.
Right, exactly. So if you want one in any type of reasonable amount of time, you're gonna have to pay for it, and that's usually how distribution works. So that's crazy. But the Royal Oaks are really, really strong. Great watches, super relevant to today's market. They're what people want. And the dial combinations, as well as limiting the distribution of these, has really risen their stock on the pre-owned market, and that has almost carried, because I believe in something in regards to business, all boats rise, right? So if we all do better, we all do better. It's not like, okay, well, one of their models is doing really well, but the rest are shit. It's not that. It's the fact that they're investing into the Royal Oaks has kind of risen the whole brand stock.
The Millenary, the Jules.
Well, it was Millenary.
Hold on,
we'll keep that off the side. But to some extent, it's going to raise the
profile of the brand.
Exactly, the buyer confidence in the whole brand. So maybe those are going to get a little kick. But Millenari's, Jewel Audemars are not, and ladies APs are traditionally not going to be watches that are going to be selling anywhere near retail. But we're talking about offshores and divers also. Watches that are a little bit sportier, that tended to be a little bit more discounted in the past, are now less discounted because when we talk about AP, we're talking about a watch brand that's a little stronger. So that even comes out to dealers. Dealers are going to be less willing to discount when they feel like they can get more money for it.
Of course,
it's good. It's a good thing for everybody. But yeah, I mean, so Audemars Piguet is the first one. I'd say that they are doing the best job of it now, as opposed to say 2 years ago. Right?
And then tell me about. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sure.
Tell me about
Panerai.
Yeah. Because we're both Paneristi.
Yeah, we like Panerai. Today's Breitling, but
which is funny. Today's actually Seiko.
There you go, Seiko and Breitling Day. But yeah,
not even wearing Panerai.
Wearing my Panerai yesterday.
But even I know they took a huge tank.
Oh,
like 2-3 years ago.
Right.
Panerai was super hot, and then it was super not.
Right. Yeah, they took a massive hit. And a lot of what you saw was the traditionalist and the all the older special editions tended to take massive hits. So, for example, the Panerai 127, which was like a grill watch for a lot of Paneristi.
The
Fitty, right? So the first 1950s case, that's a watch that used to trade. I personally have sold this watch for $22,000 as a pre-owned piece in full set box and papers. Now they're trading anywhere between probably $10,000 and $15,000.
Still well above retail.
Well, still above retail, but nothing near what they were just a few years ago, and that really has affected a lot of the watches. So you have like 5218, 201s, 202, 203s that used to go for $50, $60, $70, $80,000, now selling for $20,000 and $30,000. So
yeah.
I think it was an adjustment that needed to happen. Just the stock kept rising on these watches. People were paying.
It was nutty, man.
A Panerai 203 that would sell for close to $100,000 just 3 years ago is now selling for like $40,000 or $50,000. The Angelus movement, right? So,
yeah. But that's still really the problem with that isn't necessarily the price. I mean, good luck trying to find one.
Right. But still, so what happens is, it's supply and demand. So the demand for these things dries up to a certain extent because of what the brand was doing, releasing different models that really didn't jive with the traditionalist idea, and so those core. Their core, enthusiasts, the guys who are hardcore towards Panerai and like, oh, we only want traditional Panerais. Those guys started drifting away, and that tanked the market at the top end, which then hurt all of them coming down because guys who were looking at the top end saying, oh, well, this watch used to sell for 90, now it's selling for 50. Well, then Panerai 104 that used to sell for whatever 7 now needs to sell for 5.
Sure.
So while maybe the actual demand in regards to like number of people looking to buy like a Panerai 104 didn't go down, but the confidence in the brand went down because from the top down, just like all boats rise, all boats sink too. So, and that's kind of what happened, I believe, with Panerai. So Panerai did something that was really, really tough, which was literally 2 price drops at the retail level in 1 year. So you got to feel the pain, no pain, no gain kind of thing, whatever.
I was a rep during a price drop.
So it's rough, man. And, people, you go in and you pay a price, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later the watch is worth less, is selling for less than what you paid for it. It sucks. It doesn't make people happy. But what it does is it readjusts the market. It acknowledged that the market was a little too high on these things. It readjusts so that you're getting a better value for what you're buying. And then Panerai did a few things. They still released the Douais and some of like the 42 millimeter 1940s, which were kind of not part of the brand like DNA, but still they're looking to reach like a broader audience. I believe that's kind of how I saw that.
That's the whole point, I think.
Which it's not a bad business plan. But they also did start releasing some more relevant models. So a lot of blue dials.
Beautiful.
And then the what was it, the Oracle watches, which people are really, really liking those. I get a lot of requests for those Oracles. Hey, have you seen? Oh yeah,
the regatta timer.
The regatta timers, but they made a whole game of it. They have it's like red and blue accents on a black dial.
See, when I think Oracle, I think Omega or Bremont.
Right.
I don't really think.
Well, it's the racing team, it's the sailing team, so it kind of makes sense. And the watches are really cool looking. So those watches releasing relevant models and reducing prices or controlling distribution is going to help your brand overall. And
that's why we've actually seen Panerai pick up again a little bit.
I did. Well, so for example, there's a Panerai 292, which I really like a lot. It's a ceramic radio the black seal. So last year, you could find these watches being listed, say, on places like eBay, from dealers, right? Not from private parties, from dealers for as low as $3,500. In fact, there was 2 of them out there, and I had worked a trade on one of them. So those watches were out there being advertised from dealers for as low as $3,500. Now you can't find those anymore. So
no,
those
what's it going for right now?
It's probably $5,000 or $6,000 roughly what those watches are going for. But so what you're getting is you're seeing an adjustment, right? Those guys, the people who paid for those watches then, they have the watches now. They paid a little less. It'll be easier for them to sell going forward, so those watches will trade a little bit more fair because people are not going to feel as bad about taking some sort of hit, or if they don't have to take a hit, right?
Yeah.
So as a dealer, I'm paying $35 or more for a watch like that now, which that was essentially a retail level purchase or like an end consumer price.
Now it's wholesale.
Right. Now it's, quote unquote wholesale for a dealer like us or any dealer out there. So you have seen an adjustment. These things have to go through a period of pain in order to readjust. So you're going to lose some customers, but hopefully in the end, the idea is, I guess, they gain customers overall, and that's the case.
You're right. And actually, let me just make a little caveat. Say a little caveat there.
Sure.
If you did buy a Panerai at the Panerai boutique,
Sure.
and 2 weeks later, like you said, the price decrease, guys, no, you are not getting your money back.
Yeah.
Because that did happen a few times.
Sure.
Remember, AP had a price decrease.
Yeah.
2010.
On gold pieces.
And I sold a $90,000 Jules Audemars perpetual calendar, and the new price was like $78,000. The guy came back to the store. He's like, Federico, you're gonna give me my like $18,000 back? I'm like,
Did they do any type of on account? Nothing at all?
no, nothing. I mean, I gave the guy a strap, and that's not my fault or the store's fault. That's AP.
Yeah.
And
rough,
also,
man.
by the way, when the MSRP goes down, and let's say a dealer has stock,
Yeah.
you have 20 pieces in stock, and the price gets lowered, they don't give you a credit.
No.
Like, you bought them at that price, tough cookies. You're going to sell them at lower now, and your margin's going to go down.
You lose margin, it's rough for everybody. And if you, in the end, just like anything, there's an adjustment. Really, the people who are running the business the right way are going to survive. If you're running on the very thinnest of margins, and you're doing things that say the brand would not want you to be doing in regards to discounting, then at that point you're going to be out of business when something like
Eventually,
that happens.
Yeah.
You're not keeping with the business model that the brands want you to, so you're going to be exposed when things like that happen. So it's rough. This is business just like anything else. Obviously, these are fun. People don't want to look at it like, hey, this is hardcore business. For us, it's business. For everyone else, this is fun, of course.
And it's just great that we happen to love the business we're in. So business is business.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it more fun. I'm not selling toilet paper, so.
All right, so we got AP and Panerai, whose stock is rising.
Sure.
Let's round it out, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Let's round it out with a third brand. Is there anybody you can kind of think of?
So,
or maybe a model.
Right. So it's though AP's for sure. Panerai's a maybe. Another maybe would probably be an IWC.
Okay.
While they probably haven't made as much of a resurgence or comeback as, say, like a Panerai. They didn't have like such a massive dip either.
But they did have a dip, though.
Of course. Well, everybody did, right?
Yeah.
So IWC has released the Petit Prince.
Fantastic.
Model. Right. Very relevant watches. So while they did have, it's not a price decrease. They released new models at lower pricing that look suspiciously like the old model.
So they didn't decrease it. They're just like, hey, new Portuguese. It looks exactly the same, but it's $1,000 less.
Exactly. So essentially, they had a price decrease. They just went about it in a different way. So that helps a little bit, of course, but also releasing relevant models. Very important. So the Petit Prince is all those blue dials. People have been killing it, man. Those
I'm
watches.
in one upstairs.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. We have one upstairs, but they have the the Mark 18s, the Chronos, even the big pilots. These blue dials. People really, really like those. And right now, blue dials are hot. So even though these watches are not really limited to any real extent, people are willing to, and the price points are right. So people are willing to pay at or near retail for these watches, so they're trading really strong as well. So for that reason, I'd say IWC is probably on the fringe of a brand that's holding some more value. And of course, when we talk about the value retention, we're talking about core models, pieces that are very relevant to the market. So ladies' pieces, right, Portuguese. So it's Portuguese, big pilots, Chronos, Mark, 18s now. So the sportier watches are really going to go. So,
not necessarily Da Vinci or Portofino.
No. Well, though they just did release the new Da Vinci, which is kind of cool, I guess. But
the new one is cool, but then again, the old one. Excuse me for saying this. The old one was such a dog.
Yeah.
I mean,
unfortunately,
that
on the market.
Tonneau thing.
See, personally, I like that watch. I like the way it looks. I like funkier, weird watches.
Oh man, at one point I had so many of those in stock. Be like, buy one get two free. Take them with you.
Yeah, that's tough. and we have seen that. Very expensive Portuguese perpetual calendars.
Those are super hot, man. I love those.
Yeah, they're cool watches, but we're going to separate that from the market. So there's tons of watches that are super cool that I would personally love to own, but you can't couple that with the value retention. So like I have customers who maybe are not as well versed in trading watches, and they'll say, this watch is so much better than a Rolex. How could you say that it's worth less than a Submariner? I say, listen, the watch may be much cooler than a Rolex Submariner. In fact, I could 100% agree your watch, sir, is much better than a Rolex Submariner, but it has nothing to do with the value.
Yeah, it's unfortunately the case. And in fact, being an enthusiast, sometimes I don't exactly think with my brain when it comes. I don't mathematically think of watches that way.
Sure.
So the biggest hit I ever took personally was on my beloved Blue Dial Vintage Collection Engineer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I got a great deal on it. Mm-hmm. Not good enough though.
No, but I mean, listen. Okay, I do this for a living. I buy and sell watches, and that's how I pay my bills. My personal watch collection absolutely costs me money to go in and out. It doesn't matter what you do. There's always going to be some sort of cost, whether it be just on service or straps, or just I bought it and it was a good deal at the time, and now it's worth less. It is what it is. So I mean, I'm not immune from taking a loss. I don't make money on my personal collection because if I wanted to make money on my personal collection, I would have to. There'd be a lot more work involved, and that's not as fun.
And you wouldn't be able to necessarily buy what you really love.
And that's the point, right? So for me, there needs to be a certain balance between value retention and buying things that I love, right? So long as I can stomach whatever the hit may be, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, depending on what watch it is and when I buy it and why I buy it, all those things. Listen, I'm certainly not losing $10,000 or $15,000 on a watch, which does happen, but I'm going to put myself in a position, be as educated as possible, not to take a massive hit, but there's a cost to ownership. That's why I look at it.
Sure, and actually, one of the questions I don't love, I love when people email me with questions.
Sure.
But one of the questions which is getting increasingly, sent to me, which is something I have to explain myself, is like, Federico, I'm looking at these two watches.
Sure.
I really love watch A, but watch B holds much better value. Sure. Which would you take? I take watch A. Yeah. You really love watch A. Like, value, it's a consideration, but if you don't love it as much as watch A, then who cares?
What's the value? It's worthless, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that one thing that kind of gets lost, especially when you start trading a lot, is that the reason why you purchase a Swiss watch is not because you need it, right?
Of course not. It's completely redundant.
Exactly. I mean, listen, if I wanted to keep really good time, I'd grab my iPhone and look at it every day, right?
Sure.
So what you're doing is it starts as a celebration of success. I have enough in disposable income to buy something that is completely frivolous.
Sure, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's the mentality going into it, right?
Pretty much.
So you're celebrating your success. So, hey, listen, I have enough expendable income. I don't have to worry about my rent. I don't have to worry about my car payment, my kids' school tuition, any bills. I have extra money to put something nice and that I like on my wrist.
Even though it might have taken you a few years to save up for it.
Of course.
I mean, put that little bit aside month after month, but eventually you get there.
Yeah, it's a celebration of success. That's really what it is. And of course, there's going to be, hardcore collectors who are going to love a certain thing about a movement or about the provenance of a brand, and that all goes into it. But in the end, they're not cheap.
No, and in the end, I'm just going to finish with get what you like.
Yeah, always. I think if you're not buying what you like, you're making a mistake every time, no matter what the value retention is.
And that's a fantastic note to end today's episode. By the way, guys, if you haven't checked out Watch You Want Watch Reviews, a link in the description below, where we are amassing a massive catalog of hands-on watch reviews shot by none other than Tim Masso. Ooh. Tim does great reviews.
Yeah, that guy's really good at what he does.
I know, right? I mean, I kind of... Tim, we love you. But thank you so much for watching another episode of Federico Talks Watches, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.